When Aerys II Targaryen died, the realm turned its eyes to his son, a tall, handsome man with a voice like music and a smile that promised renewal. Aerys II Targaryen was crowned in a blaze of pageantry the Seven Kingdoms had not seen in a century. Young, charismatic, and filled with vision, he seemed every bit the heir to the conqueror's name. The court adored him, the small folk cheered him, and even the cynical lords of Westeros dared to hope that the age of glory might return. Beside him stood his queen, Rhaella, beautiful and devout, and at his right hand, his closest friend, Tywin Lannister, Lord of Casterly Rock, who would serve as his hand of the king. Together they ruled a realm that glittered like gold, the dragon and the lion, fire and wealth united. For 10 years, Westeros prospered. Roads were rebuilt, trade flourished, and the Iron Throne shone beneath banners that no longer burned. But beneath Aerys' charm, something restless stirred. His pride was quick, his temper quicker. He craved greatness not as a duty, but as destiny. In every hall, in every song, he wanted his name whispered with the reverence once given to Aegon the Conqueror. It was not enough to be a good king, he needed to be the greatest of them all. And that hunger, left unchecked, would devour him whole. In those first years, Aerys II and Tywin Lannister were as brothers. Tywin's discipline balanced Aerys' ambition, and Aerys' vision gave purpose to Tywin's precision. Together, they restored the order their fathers had struggled to keep. The Red Keep gleamed again, the treasury overflowed, and the small council obeyed without hesitation. But the seeds of resentment were already sown. Tywin's brilliance made Aerys shine less brightly. When the lords praised the king's wisdom, they whispered that it was the lion's hand that truly guided the realm. Aerys began to hear those whispers everywhere. The final insult came when Tywin sought to wed his daughter Cersei to Prince Rhaegar, a union that would have bound House Lannister to the Iron Throne. Aerys, stung by envy, refused. "Perhaps," he said mockingly, "my heir might marry your daughter, after she becomes a whore." The friendship that had built an empire died that day. Tywin withdrew behind his walls in Casterly Rock, the proudest man in Westeros made small by the pettiness of a king. The loss of his hand marked the turning point in Aerys' life. Without Tywin's steadiness, the king's brilliance burned too hot. He surrounded himself with flatterers and fools, and the once bright court of dragons began to darken. The spark came at Duskendale. The small port city, led by Lord Dennis Darklyn, rebelled against royal taxes and detained the king himself within its walls. For 6 months, Aerys was held hostage, while the realm stood paralyzed, for no one dared storm the city while the king lived. It was Sir Barristan Selmy who ended the siege, slipping through the shadows to rescue Aerys from his captors. But the man who returned to King's Landing was not the one who had left. Aerys emerged pale and thin, his eyes fever-bright, his hands trembling. He spoke of shadows in the dark, of whispers and treachery, of how every man in his court had failed him. The trauma of Duskendale shattered whatever balance had remained in his mind. From that day forward, he trusted no one. He turned his fury first upon the Darklyns, burning their line to ash, and then upon his own court. He ordered executions for imagined insults, dismissed loyal servants, and replaced them with spies. He forbade steel in the Red Keep except for his guards, and forbade his queen to leave her chambers. When his servants grew too fearful to approach him, he laughed, saying, "Let them fear their king. Fear is loyalty in its purest form." The realm began to whisper of the mad king, not yet openly, not yet loudly, but enough that fear became truth. In time, Aerys II abandoned governance altogether for the comfort of obsession. He surrounded himself with pyromancers, those gaunt men of the Alchemists' Guild who spoke of wildfire as the purest flame. To them, he was a prophet. He ordered caches of wildfire hidden beneath the city, in tunnels, under gates, even beneath the Red Keep itself. "One day," he said, "the enemies of House Targaryen will choke on green fire, and I will be reborn from flame as the dragons once were." His paranoia grew boundless. He saw plots in every hall, treason in every glance. Lords who sought audience with him left in terror, some never left at all. He began to hear voices, the ghosts of the kings before him, urging him to cleanse the world in fire. And through it all, Rhaella, his queen, endured in silence. Their love had curdled into cruelty. He accused her of adultery, beat her before the court, and locked her away with their children, emerging only to demand another heir when his madness turned to mania. The more he descended, the brighter his sun shone. Prince Rhaegar Targaryen, solemn, brilliant, and beloved, became the hope of Westeros and the unspoken challenge to his father's rule. When Rhaegar spoke of prophecy, he spoke of salvation. When Aerys spoke of it, he spoke of fire. The spark that would destroy the Targaryen dynasty began, as so many tragedies do, with love. At the tourney of Harrenhal, the realm saw Rhaegar crown Lyanna Stark as the Queen of Love and Beauty, passing over his wife, Elia Martell. The act was romantic, reckless, and fatal. When Lyanna vanished months later, her betrothed, Robert Baratheon, called it abduction. Brandon Stark rode to King's Landing to demand her return. Aerys answered by burning him alive and strangling his father with his own chain. That day, the realm chose sides. The Stormlords, the North, the Vale, and the Riverlands rose in open rebellion. Even the West held its breath, for Tywin Lannister remained silent, his banners waiting. The Mad King called for wildfire, for dragons, for gods who no longer listened. He sent Rhaella and their young son Viserys to Dragonstone for safety, and Rhaegar to the Trident to end the war. At the Battle of the Trident, the Prince of Prophecy met his fate. Robert Baratheon's hammer shattered Rhaegar's chest, and the river ran red with dragon blood. When the news reached King's Landing, Aerys laughed until he wept, then ordered the pyromancers to prepare their caches. "Let it all burn," he whispered. "Let them see what a dragon's wrath truly is." As the rebel armies closed in, Tywin Lannister marched to the capital with 20,000 men, claiming to defend the crown. Desperate, Aerys opened the gates. What entered was not salvation, but fire. Lannister soldiers flooded the streets, looting and killing. When Sir Jaime Lannister, the youngest of the King's Guard, entered the throne room, he found the pyromancers waiting for their final command. "Burn them all," Aerys hissed from the Iron Throne, wild-eyed and trembling. "Burn the city! Burn them all!" Jaime struck him down before the words could become action. The sword cut through madness, but not through memory. When the blood of the last king pooled beneath the throne, the Targaryen dynasty ended, not with the roar of dragons, but with the whisper of steel. In the ashes of King's Landing, Robert Baratheon was crowned. Across the narrow sea, Viserys and his newborn sister Daenerys began their exile. The realm was free, but the dream was dead. The dragons had devoured themselves at last, and yet the fire was not wholly gone. In the next episode, the story returns to the year before the rebellion, when Westeros still believed in songs. At Harrenhal, the greatest tourney of the age drew every name that would soon shape its destiny. Prince Rhaegar Targaryen, the Silver Prince who sang of prophecy and doom. Lyanna Stark, the Wolf Maid whose laughter stirred his heart. Robert Baratheon, bold and brash, already dreaming of his future queen. And Brandon Stark, the sword who would not yield. In the shadow of the Mad King's growing madness, a crown of blue roses was laid upon a maiden's lap, and the realm's fate was sealed. Love would spark rebellion, rebellion would birth legend, and from one false spring would come a winter that would never end.